Hello Dragon Ball Super family, I'm Legends Kerrick, and I'm bringing you my King Piccolo Best of 1 deck list that I piloted to split a first place finish in 3v3 Team Wars this past weekend's PPG Tampa event. FOExPPG split first with another PPG team this weekend during Team Wars with the same exact decks and the same exact seats on each team, completely unintentional. Both teams piloted Icarus in Seat A, King Piccolo in Seat B, and Soul Striker, albeit different variants, in Seat C. I think this is the strongest red deck in this format due to its uncanny ability to grind out most mid-range decks, including the indomitable Icarus deck. Let's hop right into this deck list. King Piccolo is a leader that begins at 6 life, and when this card attacks, you may choose up to one Namekian or Demon Clan red, of course, card in your hand and place it in your life face up, and if you do add one card from your life to your hand, of course this doesn't draw. It actually doesn't draw on either side of the card, but oddly enough, this deck draws an egregious amount. And then its awakened conditions are when you have 2 life or less, or when your life is at 2 or less, or you have 2 face more. This is terrible. Let me try that again. When you have 2 or life or less, or 2 or more of your life is face up in your life, you may draw 3 cards, place 1 card from the top of your deck into your life, and then flip this card over. On the backside, it becomes a ridiculous leader. When this card attacks, instead now you replace 3 cards in your hand into your life and take 3 life out. And then of course it's got the activate battle. You can, as long as you have a red Namekian or Demon Clan in your flip face up in your life, you can place the top card of your deck face up into your life, then combo with one of your Namekians or Demon Clans from your life. That's really cool. Of course, it doesn't say draw, but once we go into the deck list, we'll understand how the deck draws a lot. I know the deck starts at 6 life, but you draw 3 and heal 1, so it effectively starts at 8 life if you get the chance to awaken, if that makes sense. It just allows you to get your super combos a little faster. Alright, to start off with, we have our 4 copies of Piano. Reign of Terror. Piano says if once per turn during either player's turn, if one of your life is placed, or if a card is placed face up in your life, you get to draw a card. So there begins your draw engine, right? This usually triggers on both your turn and your opponent's turn. And of course, if this card is removed from your battle or sent to your drop area by a skill from your battle area, you can flip one of your face up life face down and then bring this back to the field in active mode, which is just ridiculous because you can't even neg this thing to death, or if you try to KO it by some card skill that KOs 1-drops, it's going to come back anyway as long as you're awakened. That's super efficient. And then of course, the main thing to know about this deck, if you're going, for your mulligans, if you're going first, you don't want to keep this unless you don't have any other choice. You obviously want a 1-drop, but if you're going second, this card is one of the best things to see, because then you can slam this out on turn 1 and immediately start drawing with this card, turning your leader effect effectively into a draw 1 every time you attack. And then, as I mentioned, instead of keeping this if you go first, you'd rather keep 1 copy of King Piccolo Dragon Ball Obsessed, so that actually does something on your turn 1. When this card is played, you just look at the top 5 cards of your deck. Pretty much add anything in your deck to your hand. Adds 1 red Namekian or Demon Clan with energy cost of 4 or less to your hand, or a Unison card with specified cost of 2. So that's practically every card in your deck except for 8 that I can think of, right? That's an amazing turn 1, and it effectively later evolves into your 4-drop. Speaking of evolve targets into a 4-drop, these are the other 4 out of 9 evolve targets into a 4-drop. This card, rarely seen in King Piccolo decks, but for a best of 1, it really amps up the speed. A lot of times if you lose the die roll, you really want to push decks fast, especially like Cell Surge or Cooler. You want to push them before they even get the chance to stand up, and this is a card that really helps that. Excuse my cough. I've got this psychosomatic thing going on. Anyway, activate battle. So first of all, it's got this activate main. Once per turn, you can pay a red. If you don't have a red Unison card in play, you can choose up to 1 Piccolo Jr. Descend of the King, so your natural Unison, in your hand or face up in your life, and play with a marker on it. So you get to play your Unison 1 marker, and then your Unison will uptick for 1 more marker and draw a card. So your Unison will have 2 anyway. So that's really cool. It's a really cool way to self-awaken yourself if you're at 5 life and you have a Unison face up in your life. More importantly, it's got this activate battle, which literally replaces your leader, copies your leader's activate battle once per game per copy of this card. So early game, when you're still setting up your life with Demon Clans, you can put a cymbal, a Tamourine, or a drum into your life early game, and then combo it out through this card before you even awaken. Or mid to late game, once you're awakened, this card will let you get 2 Demon Clans out in 1 turn, and of course later you can evolve into your 4-drop. Speaking of our 4-drop, this card, his EX Evolve condition is for 1 red mana. You can evolve onto 1 red King Piccolo with an energy cost of 3 or less, which is all 8 of these and the SR. When this card is played, or when this card attacks, or sorry, when this card is played, or when a card is evolves into this card, you can add up to 1 red Namekian or Demon Clan with energy cost of 4 or less to your hand, or 1 red Unison card with specified cost 2 from your deck to your hand. So this lets you search your whole deck for whatever piece you're missing, which is ridiculous. It's an upgraded version of Dragon Ball Chase or Dragon Ball Obsession. Oftentimes you can even search super combos with this. You can find your Unison if you don't have it out. It's ridiculous. And then even more ridiculous, stapled onto this 20k attacker, is this auto once per turn when this card is played or attacks. Fortunately, it's once per turn. You can choose up to one of your Demon Clans. It probably says red Demon Clans. And it gains 20k power for the turn. That turns Drum into a 35k barrier attacker. It turns Tamourine into a 40k dual attacker. There's just so many applications you can do with this card. Even turning Piano into a 24k attacker for an extra to take a life off your opponent is relevant. Every turn this card remains on the field just makes your turns more and more threatening. For our first 3-drop Demon Clan, we got our limited to 1 Drum, Reign of Terror. It's just a barrier blocker. Honestly, what makes this card so broken is it's just a free play 15k barrier card. It could not have blocker or any other text on this card, and it would still be absurd. But much like the rest of the 3-drop Demon Clans in this deck, once you combo this card from your life at the end of that battle, it comes into play in active mode. This one's additional effect is that you choose one of your opponent's battle cards, not ignoring barrier, and reduce it by 10k. That sometimes comes up. You can kill some cheeky 1ks like Black Mouse Saiyan or like West Kai. But more importantly, it becomes a blocker that's very difficult to remove, so you can block for your Unison and then get a combo step out of it. Our second 3-drop Demon Clan is probably the most important in the deck. It's Symbol, Reign of Terror. It shares that auto where it comes into play at the end of the battle from which it was comboed from your life. And then activate main once per turn, not limit 1 for some reason. If your leader card is whatever this thing, you can choose up to one of your Unisons that has Rejuvenate with it. And to my knowledge, so far, that's only the King Piccolo Unison, or Piccolo Jr. Unison. And you can tuck a Demon Clan from your drop underneath that Unison to +1 your Unison again, and draw a card. That's ridiculous to me. So for every symbol you have on the field and that maintains the field presence between turns, you get to draw an extra card every turn. So the fact that this leader doesn't draw is actually a sham, because between Piano and Symbol and your Unison, you're probably drawing like 3 to 4 cards a turn. And then of course you're comboing for free, so you don't actually have to use resources from your hand to develop battle cards. And then the final 3-drop Demon Clan, I don't even know if there are other Demon Clans. I'm pretty sure I checked at one point in my life. But the final one you play is Tamourine. It's got unique, shares that auto where it comes into play after a battle, which is combo from your life, and then it's auto once per turn. When this card attacks, as long as you have 3 face-up life, or you have a something underneath like your Piccolo Jr. Unison, this card restands immediately and gains 5k, so it becomes a 20k for 0 mana dual attacker, which is just ridiculous to me. Fortunately, it's unique, but there are ways to get around that. For example, you can attack once with the Tamourine, then you can attack with a different card, combo the original Tamourine, and then let that go, and then you attack with a different card, let's say your leader, and then combo with a new Tamourine off your leader effect to bring in a new Tamourine, and now you pretty much got a triple attack off your Tamourine. It's just a ridiculous card. And of course, paired with Time to Fight, it becomes a 40k dual attacker with like no contribution on your part. It's just free and powerful. And a tech card I played for best of 1 is this King Piccolo Evil Dictator. It's got Deflect, Double Strike, Dual Attack. Fortunately, it doesn't have barrier, so it does die to Charismatic Villain. But when this card is removed from your battle area by skill or KO'd, so it frees a Charismatic Villain, you can play 1 face-up red Piccolo Jr. from with an energy cost of 4 or less from your life, which allows you to play stuff like the negate blocker that's somewhere in this deck. Which is like the only relevant thing. But what really matters is activate main for 1 red. If your leader card fits this, you can sacrifice any amount of Demon Clans in your battle area whose total power adds up to 40k or more and place in the drop area, and then you play this card from your hand. Now you get a dual attack Double Striker for 1 mana. It sounds like a huge cost to pay until you realize that Time to Fight turns this thing into a 40k alone, so you can attack twice with this and then pay 1 mana to sacrifice this Tamourine, which develops a dual attack Double Strike, and then you guessed it, you can attack with your leader or something else and then combo with a new Tamourine for your life to get another dual attack 20k. All for 1 mana. really powerful red deck. Um, Moving away from some of that, we have Piccolo Jr., the King Scion. This is a free, unique, double strike blocker, and I say free because if you have a Unison in play, a red Unison in play, doesn't matter the amount of markers on it, you can activate this card's counter skill from your hand without paying its energy cost of 4. It's a counter attack, negate the attack, amazing. Then play this card in rest mode. So you developed a double strike, possibly blocker, never will be a blocker, but you developed this double strike for 0 mana and negated the attack, which is super relevant. We play 3 copies because they are unique. You can still negate with the extra copies, but they don't play itself, so that's super neg. And nothing in this deck really is neg. Also, it's a 1 for 10k, and that's super weak. We don't play a super combo to bottom decks cards, so we can't afford to clog our hand up when we're trying to go in or survive on stuff. Our super combo of choice is this Dependable Warrior Piccolo. It's just the old, like if you have 4 life or less, when you combo with this card, you draw a card. Seems super niche until you realize that it's a Namekian, so your leader can put it in your life. Your leader can use his Activate Battle to combo with this card from life. This Time to Fight card and this Dragon Ball Obsession, wherever it is, Dragon Ball Obsession card, can also search this card when they use their respective effects. So it just makes this super combo more efficient for the deck. Play 3 copies of Yamcha Merciless Barrage. It's honestly a terrible counterplay card. If your Unison has 2 or more markers on it, you can play this card without paying its energy cost. It really only works on window 2 cards or like cards that are ready pre-developed because it's got to come onto the field, and then as it's coming onto the field, it's choosing 2 of your opponent's battle cards and reducing their power by 15k. That's honestly terrible in most scenarios, but paired with this Piccolo Jr. Unison, it can set up some really cool plays where you can like KO 3 cards in a turn, or you can KO really big cards. Like if your opponent uses like Topo or like Mecha Ripos, you can play Yamcha in response to reduce like a Turles, right? Then on window 2, right, you can like Yamcha to reduce the Turles and the Frieza. The Frieza will die to the Yamcha, and then your Piccolo auto can kill off the Turles, and that's like really cool. Otherwise, it's just a 15k beater and a really great energy. We play 1 copy of Fighting Against Fate because I don't like overwhelming in this deck due to Symbol's effect to constantly tuck Demon Clans under your leader. I'm sure there's a better version of this deck where it can fit a secret ID. I just don't have enough experience with King Piccolo to really understand how to like manipulate my drop for like overwhelms, and I'm just not comfortable with it. So I just play the standard Fighting Against Fate to finish off the game, since we are effectively like an aggro edged mid-range deck. So Fighting Against Fate's a really cool way to finish it off. Paired with our Fighting Against Fate, of course, we play 1 copy of Hidden Power E Supreme Kai. I am a firm believer that if you're playing red decks, you should be playing Hidden Power E Supreme Kai. If you're playing any other color deck, just go ahead and play Champa. But if the situation ever comes up where you're grinding your opponent, you're down to 1 card each, or top decking for battle cards, you can just cast Supreme Kai. It's a 15k attacker for 2 mana, which is more relevant than 3 mana for Champa for a 16k. I'm sure you can understand how that works. But just being able to give FAF double strike or like one of your Tamourines double strike once it hits 40k or leader. I mean, be creative with it. It's just really sneaky. Also, it's chargeable because it's red. We played this. It's another tutorable card by Time to Fight in Dragon Ball Session because it's a Namekian. As long as your Unison has 3 or more markers, you can play this card from your hand without paying its energy cost. It's an activate main to play this card from your hand, and then of course you can't do that again for the rest of the turn. And it's kind of like a second overwhelm because it warps itself at the end of the turn. Gains 5k, your opponent can't block when you swing with this card. It's natural double strike. Cool way to sneak in extra double strike damage, especially like if you're early turns. If you're going first and you're on turn 3 and that's like your push turn, you can really set your opponent to like 2 or 1 because of this card often. That's really powerful. The STR of choice I played for this deck was Supreme Kai of Time, Space Time, and Raveler. I played 3v3, so like the Icarus deck definitely deserved to use the Pan more. And I don't mind using Kai in this deck. In fact, this is the one I'm just using for this deck. Pan's like really cool because it can stop attacks, but like this deck suffers into stuff like Meki Cabra or like Boo Unison, and Supreme Kind of Tie is a really great way to deal with that. It also, like in the mirror, this card makes a difference. If your opponent's playing Pan, you're playing Kai, you're oftentimes winning the mirror because you're just trading boards in the mirror. This lets you trade without having to lose your Unison once. That's a big deal too. Also, like almost everything in your deck costs 1 or less to play. So you oftentimes just go into your opponent's turn with a lot of mana up. I stopped charging by like 4 usually in this deck, or 5, I can't remember. But like it's just there's no value in charging at that point where you can just maintain the hand count. Finally, for the last battle cards I play in this deck, especially for best of 1 and even for best of 3, I play 3 copies of Piccolo Warrior of Universe 11. It's really just a Denial of Hope on legs. It's got blocker, it's a 15k. The fact that it's a 15k is absurd because you can swing after it's played. Its counterplay is a battle card being played as 20k power or less. You can place it into the drop area instead of being played. So that's ridiculous. Its Bond 3 is if you have 3 or more. Bond 3, so if you have 3 or more battle cards on the field, you can reduce the cost of this card to 2, so it really is just a denial of hope on legs. And then what's even more ridiculous, I don't know why they slapped this on there, when this card is played, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards and reduce its power by 10k. So like that same scenario I told you with like Riposte, it works with Ketal too, which is just sick with the Unison. So like if your opponent has like turtles on the field and they Riposte your attack and you have your Unison on the field, you're going to respond with Ketal. The Riposte is going to go to the drop, so they don't get the auto from Riposte. And then you're going to use the auto, you're going to resolve this auto first on Ketal to reduce Turtle to 10k, and since they use the counter skill, your Unison is going to go ahead and kill the Turtles, which is just absurd. Speaking of the Unison, we keep talking about it all game. This is pretty much the life and blood of this deck. If you're trying to learn how to beat this deck, just kill this Unison 4 times, and the deck is total dog shit. Total garbage afterwards. The Unison's a 2-drop Unison. It's just the most efficient Unison because, one, it's got just a +1 draw card, activate main. Its auto is absurd. It needs to be set to once per turn. But whenever your opponent activates a counter skill, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards with an energy or power rather of 15k or less and KO it, which is absurd. That kills almost every counterplay and counter attack in the game. Especially paired with stuff like Ketal and Yamcha, you can just do crazy things with this card. And then it has this -2 that's like super relevant too. You can choose one of your 3-drop battle cards, probably red, and then choose all of your opponent's battle cards with power less than the card that you chose, and KO all of those battle cards. It's like your opponent's, not yours. So if you remember me saying you can get Tamourine up to like 40k, then you can use the -2 to choose Tamourine, and then you pretty much board wipe your opponent, including some SCRs. Furthermore, after you use that effect, it actually gives this card another skill where you can minus a further 2, like it has a sneaky hidden 3rd skill where you can -2 again to rejuvenate 1, which is sometimes relevant. And then for the purposes of BO1, I only played 1 negate in my deck other than the free ones, and it's just another free negate. It's testing the opposition. It's just the sparkling red negate. If you're 5 life or less, you can play this 5k blocker. But what's relevant about this is that the testing the opposition 5k blocker has combo power. So like if it doesn't even get to block, you can combo this card off further in the future for power. And that's super relevant. So that's the entire King Piccolo deck. The deck is super fun to play, shockingly. I'm not a huge like aggro mid-range player, but like it was super fun to play. I enjoy learning different things, so that was really fun to pilot. I think I dropped 1 game during teams, but I just used that opportunity to coach my teammates into winning their games, or help my teammates win their games, so that was really fun. The deck is definitely still a beast in this format. Like the 1 drum did not hurt it enough. There's definitely a lot more things. It's like the only deck that can still do like relevant free plays. So, yeah, quick shout-outs to FOExPPG for such a well-run event. Shout-out to my friends. Shout-out to Kyle Carlton and Joshua Arzuaga for being on my team. They stepped in when my original team members had other things come up and they couldn't play anymore. And they really just overperformed. Kyle, like, I don't think Kyle dropped a match that entire Team Wars. And Josh held his own, especially versus his bad matchups. Like, he just held on where he needed to and he won where he needed to. So that was really sweet. It's a really fun time playing with those guys. Really glad I got to split first with the other half of PBG. In all honesty, we probably would have lost to them. Like the 2 true mirror matches, we probably would have lost, and our Soul Striker player probably would have won because he was red-blue was favored versus blue-yellow in that matchup. But it was a great matchup. Shout out to those guys for making their way to first as well and doing what they do. Shout out to all my friends that play with me and keep this game alive. And shout out to all of you guys for just making this game so much fun to play and making like traveling to these events super worth it. Like I love interacting with every single one of you guys and like hearing your stories and what you've been able to do with some of these decks I've come up with, and I really look forward to seeing you guys at the next events. Catch y'all later.